for us to make sure that it's being written up. Because keeping of logbook is something, as you may be aware, most of our vehicles, particularly in the mountains, are ATVs. And the logbook is not something that the conditions are not really kind to logbooks. And there is this, people end up in all sorts of difficulties. Well, we try to tell them to keep the logbook in the office, but we call it as often as they should. As again I said, there's a long way to go, but we're working on it.
So things like your ledgers that you need for the stores, store ledgers, storekeepers, purchase requisitions, master inventories. Well,
it's almost starting from scratch in some instances. As I said, the record keeping has been abysmal, and we have made requests for those documentation. In fact, only recently we're getting these record keeping implements, but the know-how and the technical assistance required, we're seeking it.
So what we want to be assured about is that you're on a path towards getting these things done.
Well, precisely, that's what we...
So you're on a path. Now, also on the same paragraph of 863, it is mentioned that 18.956 million were expended on vehicles, spares, service in vehicles, plant, machinery. And their historical records were not maintained to enable you to monitor. As same paragraph B, subparagraph B.
863.
Right? 863B. So has that position improved in terms of those records?
The overall situation in relation to every aspect of the store is almost in the same condition. And we are making the efforts in all directions to have those records maintained.
Because it's alarming that this record says it's difficult to ascertain the total amount of vehicles owned and controlled by the region. So you should at least have a list of how many vehicles you have.
Well, yes, we should have that. But I mean, to be frank with you, I don't know if you'd want to call some of them vehicles as to what we have.
It's still what you have, still what you list.
Yes, yeah, I agree. But as I said, just like in the other aspect of storekeeping, it's all, it all has to be rebuilt and maintained.
But isn't there a process that if someone is using a vehicle that belongs to the region, that there is some record that this is the person that has this vehicle?
Yes.
And if they're using it or they're no longer using it rather and someone else is, there is some record to show, well, A no longer has it and B does?
Yes.
And that record is now in place?
Yes. For the existing vehicle.
All right. In paragraph 864.
Before we move on from the record keeping, I wanted to make a point on that as well, to ask a question on that, Brian.
Go ahead.
One thing we have noted throughout the examination thus far of Region 8 is that I think the accounting officer made it very clear that there was a lack of the capacity. And rightly so, you're saying right now, you're still having issues with the capacity to get the work done. So my question is, what changes were there in the staffing component to get this work done in terms of persons that have the actual ability, the capacity to get these things done? Or are you working with the same persons right now? And how do you plan on fixing it? Because if you still have the same challenges, I see this matter repeating itself over and over.
Yes, I agree. I think the difficulty, in spite of the fact that the limitations are there on the floor, I see it as a lack of proper management. These things were allowed to slide, and they've gone to a point where it's Herculean to get them back in line. I am not saying that the people there now are not capable, but as to whether they could actually do the getting it back in line, they will need guidance, which we are trying to access.
But do you see a need for training at this point, especially as regards towards regulations and so forth?
There is always need for training all the time. But I do not know if training is going to arrest it as rapidly as we think. The willingness to get the work done is what is lacking. We're having a difficulty, and then COVID is not helping at all. So we are having our own challenges. Not that we're complaining, it's just that we are in a situation that.
So are you saying that the present staff don't have the competence or are qualified to get the work done in a manner that you would consider satisfactory?
I do not want to say that. I want to say that the motivational level is not there. People are not motivated to I wouldn't want to say, to go any extra at all in relation to getting things back on an even keel. It's not that the work is not rocket science. It's straightforward. It's just having people willing to do the work of getting it done. It's not a difficult task, but to my mind, it's more lack of motivation in some areas.
But sir, would you not agree that it goes beyond being motivated? If you are employed to execute a duty, and you are responsible for this particular task, whether you are motivated or not, at the end of the month, you're being paid to execute that responsibility. That should be a part of your motivation. You're being paid to do so.
That's true.
And if that's why I asked the question, because I know staffs are given different respective responsibilities. And I asked specifically if they have the requisite know-how to get that task completed. And if not, would training help in that regard, or does it require the employing of persons who are in possession of the requisite qualifications to get the job done?
Well, training definitely will add to the effort and be something good. Because I would imagine, given where we're at the moment, I'm telling to you it straight as it is, given where we're at, it's daunting for untrained people to really put it back on track.
So so you're saying there's a dire need for training because the present staff aren't well equipped to execute that particular mandate.
You've said it, yes.
So FS, I know you would have embarked on setting out some training programs. I think this region is in need of that. Could you provide such training for the staff?
Definitely, Chair. We will include all the regions, because the problems that we're reviewing right now, with respect to this region, you will find it in the other regions.
Okay.
So we'll extend it to all the other regions.
And that training will start this year.
It will be difficult given the
In the new year.
In the new year, definitely. In the new year.
But there is a staff component, right? I just wanted to clarify that. You have the staff component.
I'm not certain. I don't.
You
Think
have the
so.
amount, you don't?
No, I don't think so. As I said, I referred to COVID. Right now, we are down to one person in the store. Right now,
One.
as it is. But I will
Why
give
is
you-
one person? Is it that because it's a shift system, or is that it, or is it that the stores in itself require the employ of more people, or are you because of COVID you're doing a shift system? And
Because-
as such, you only have one.
Because of COVID, one person is off. It used to be two of them in the stores, but one is off.
Because of a shift system, you
No,
doing?
not a shift system. They're unwell.
When you say they're off, what does that mean? They're
Off the
fired.
job at the moment and leave.
Oh, okay. So, but you have enough persons to work the stores, even though one is off at the point.
Well, yes, I would think so. It's not.
So
It's
two
not
is sufficient.
possibly it is sufficient. I don't know if that is what is the requirement, to which I will check to see what is our staffing component. But I'm sure that two could comfortably
Do the job.
Do the job.
Okay. Remember that, and then you have to go.
Thank you, Chairman. Paragraphs 264 and 265. If I 864, sorry, 864 and 865. Better know. I want to take them together because they relate to checks that you have and the checks being cleared and the process by which this is happening. Now, as it exists now, what is the process with checks and the clearing? Is it still a long gap between the checks being issued and the checks being cleared?
In some instances, yes. We have moved over the past weeks to getting as much cleared as is possible. What could not have been cleared, we have refunded checks in some instances because of checks being held for long periods. And we are making the effort to bring the situation to some sort of acceptable level. Again, I cannot boast that we have it to where it ought to be, but it's ongoing. We are making the efforts.
Now, in this, the mention is made here that checks totaling 16.161 million were paid in the name of the REO of Region Number 8. What would be the circumstances for that to take place?
Again, as you cautioned me earlier, this is going back 2016. I
don't know.
I don't.
But you do realize that when something like that happens, there's no way to determine whether value has been received for those funds. So could you inquire or could you report back to us as to why this was done? And what was it done for? Why was 16.161 million paid to the REO?
Yes, sir.
And whether there's any supporting documentation for whatever that was for. So if you could report back to us about that. But if we go on with it, is there a reason why it is taking, why checks are taking so long or why checks are so long before they're cleared?
I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. Again, I can't say.
At present, this length of period, this period of time of on average 365 days is not what's happening. Well, you haven't been there 365 days, but
What we are doing, we are very cognizant of the fact that this area needs to be tidied up. Our current year, for sure, we have been trying to stay within the limits of what is allowed. And prior years, we're trying with them too. As I said, there are still some outstanding issues, and we are trying to deal with those.
And you have a system in place now? Or is it the same system
Well,
that
the
always
system has always been there. It's just that it's being flouted, but the system has always been there.
So the system to do so has always existed. It's
Yes,
just not being followed.
Right, correct.
And that has changed now. Being it is being followed as best you can.
We're trying the hardest or the darnest to stick to what are the requirements.
Now, specifically in 865, mention is made about the Audit Act and being able to provide vouchers for what goes on. Let me just read to you what it is. The regional administration was in breach of Section 30 of the Audit Act 2004, in that during the period under review, a sample of 784 payment vouchers totaling 454.728 million relating to audit charges on the current expenditure were requested for audit examination. However, 314 vouchers totaling 152,007.737 or 40% were not presented for audit.
Yes, area.
Yeah.
Can you please rephrase the question? Repeat the question.
I'm reading to you what's in paragraph 865. So in 865, it says, if you have it with you.
Yes.
Right. So it says that 784 payment vouchers were requested, totaling 454.728 million, relating to audit charges on the current expenditure. These were requested, 784 were requested for audit examination. However, 314 vouchers totaling 152.737 million, or 40.1%, were not presented for audit. Similarly, for capital expenditure, 112 vouchers totaling 220.573 million, or an amount of 30.512 million, or 23%, were not presented. What is the present position as it relates to your keeping of vouchers for capital and current expenditures?
Once these vouchers would have been retired, they would have been surrendered to the Accountant General at the Sub-Treasury Office. So all of the vouchers should be at the Sub-Treasury and available for inspection once requested.
But this refers to 40% of current expenditure and 23% for capital expenditure for the period under review, which would be 2016. And there are no vouchers presented for this. So how can you audit any of the expenditure? So is this...
But remember that then, if I may. Remember that then? It was established for this particular region and the reporting itself that the region reflect a bad record keeping of important documents on multiple occasions. And I believe this question also reaffirms what was already established, bad record keeping. So I think we will prolong around the same particular issue that is already known and established.
Well, but what I'm getting at is there any improvement, meaning vouchers? Well, currently you say you have a better system.
Yes, sir.
And in relation to what related to paragraph 865, has there been an improvement in vouchers relevant vouchers that were found or submitted for that period?
What we try to do,
No, firstly, let's deal with what happened before. So for this that was requested, were you able to find, locate, or submit any more than is recorded here?
I am not aware that we were able to submit those.
So what is the present position? What is the present position with that? The same way?
As in what obtains current year?
Yes. That's what.
Currently, as fast as vouchers are being generated, we ensure that they're retired at the appropriate way into the sub-treasury unit.
All right, I got that from you. What I'm asking you, is there been any improvement about these ones that are mentioned in this audit? Did we find anything else? What is the present state of this?
We need to be advised by the sub-treasury unit as to the extent to which we could locate.
Chair,
So if,
Yes,
I'd like
AJ.
to intervene here. My question will be, Ario, when you were preparing for PAC over the last maybe a week or more, have efforts been made to contact the sub-treasury to locate these vouchers? Because your response is that you will make efforts to work with the sub-treasury in order to retrieve these vouchers. Was any effort made?
To be frank, no.
And another
I
question.
highly recommend, Ario, I highly recommend you work with the sub-treasury. If there are any issues and challenges, please make contact with me immediately.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam,
Just a follow-up on that one also,
Yeah.
to add to that, the sub-treasurer in charge in 2016, is it the same person now also?
yes.
That person is currently on vacation.
Okay.
It's a temporary officer we have here.
With Suraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, from the chairman. 880. Mr. Chairman, there are some serious issues here. In particular, A, the Auditor General is claiming that it was difficult to ascertain if items purchased totaling $46.2 million were received and brought into account. I noted that the response from the accounting officer says that a check has been cleared, an ambulance has been returned, and there's some issues with purchases allocated to schools, health centers, and offices. There are also matter that has to do with laptops. I think the two laptops that are missing were allocated to the former REO and the former RHO. The response from the accounting office is deficient in saying if efforts were made to locate the laptops. I read it to mean that they were trying to find the officers, the two officers. I'm just trying to confirm if the two officers that the REO is speaking to here are the two persons who are in possession or still are in possession of the government property, meaning the two laptops.
Ario?
In relation to the laptops, the one person would have been the RHO then. And I've seen evidence where the RHO stated that the laptop was returned to the region. Full stop. The other person would have been the REO. Again, not knowing the gentleman's whereabouts, I can't say that we have made effort to recover same. But that's where it is in relation to, and I would imagine if the RHO is returning a laptop because of leaving the region, the person that it would be returned to most likely would be the REO. That person cannot be located.
To the chair.
Go ahead.
Are you not necessarily? However, if you could make contact with the RHO, please inquire if an acknowledgement receipt of submission of the laptop was given.
Yeah, doesn't the region has a records register? And if they are in possession of a records register, then that should be in the register if it was
And
returned.
then it would have been returned to the stores, and the stores should
Yeah.
have those records as well. One is assuming that.
Yes. So coupled with the information that you have to provide PSC, could you also endeavor to ensure that this particular outstanding query is also addressed in your responses?
Yes, sir. But bear in mind that the records we need to peruse are almost non-existent because these would be store issues. So we will try to see what kind. I'll have RHO contact his
Colleague, yeah.
colleague and see what explanation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
Siraj?
Chairman, 884 and 885, there are a number of overpayments here, overpayments totaling just $10 million. I noted in the accounting officer response that because of the full state of record, which we have already established, that he's going to make effort to identify these contractors from the audit office. Can we be given an update on the efforts of the REO to identify these contractors?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, over the last 2 days, we have been working closely with
Go ahead, Ario.
Yeah, we have been working closely with the AG's office, and we have some information available in relation to the names of contractors, which we are going to start working with.
I have the floor, Siraj.
I see it, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman,
And with that in,
paragraph 867 relates to it's
still open.
867 relates to government quarters. Relates to the occupation and rentals that have to be paid for government quarters. So the government quarters or public servants are required to pay 10 or 12% of their salary in rent. And there's been no rent collected since December 2014. Could you advise what is the current position?
The current position is that occupants are paying rental for quarter. I cannot say for sure how many are paying and how many are not, but I could.
But they're paying as required
Yes.
under the rules.
Yes.
So whoever is paying
Right.
10 or 12% or so they're paying as required.
Right. Yes.
The rules also cater for free accommodation once
Yeah.
that request has been. Yeah. Yes, and it has to be contractual for the payments to be done.
Mr. Chairman, we are acquainted with that and we are working with
Just for the honorable member.
the public service rules.
You really want? Now, if we're coming back to at paragraph 876, 875, we're coming back to paragraphs that relate to overpayment. Could you say whether firstly, paragraph 876, which we have, whether the sanitary block, Paramakatoy, whether this is related to one of the earlier projects that we've mentioned at Paramakatoy, or this is separate? It's separate, right? So again, contract sum is awarded 4.9 million, fully paid. Overpayments of 139,000. Has this been recovered?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And when was it recovered?
2018, 30th of July 2018.
Now, I know you had indicated that you can't say exactly why this occurred. You had a view that it was paid on the basis of the contract without any measured works. And you had also promised that for the paragraphs 840 to 59, can we add 876 so that you can indicate about why that is so? And that similarly goes for 877, which relates to overpayments for the upgrade of the electrical system.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman.
The same if we could ascertain the reason why the overpayments occurred. Now, 878 is slightly different in that there was construction of a guard hut. It was awarded in a sum and a variation, 2.7 million, variation of 1.4 odd million. And again, the entire contract sum was paid. So in relation to that one, could you inquire for us as to why again that was done? Now, to direct you to 879, which relates to bidding documents, special conditions, and more specifically, mobilization advances. It's provided that mobilization advances should not exceed 30% for the region in which you are. And it appears that in examination of the contracts revealed 26 instances. Do we have or do you have an explanation as to why that would have happened?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Could you inquire for us? And could you inquire for us? And separately, can you tell us whether there are systems or measures in place to ensure this does not happen moving forward?
There are systems in place.
What systems are there in place now for that?
The approved amount would be 30% of the contract. Bonded 30%. The bond must be made available, then you could give as much as 30% of the contract sum.
Okay, paragraph 880. It says amount totaling 97,737,000 was budgeted for the purchase of beds, dining sets, refrigerators, suite, solar systems, school furniture, play sets, CD players, desks, fogging machines, cabinets, filing cabinets, chairs, table, chalkboard.
Remember, we do not have to read every item
I'm
in
going
this
to-
paragraph. Can we just ask a question? Yeah, I mean, this was, yeah.
Now, as of December, at the end of that year, it had been paid again.
Sir, remember that today in this particular paragraph was dealt with where there was a, yeah, it was
Yes, no.
repeated.
I wasn't going to ask him about the waiver. I was going to ask him for the other paragraphs that we had asked as to why it had occurred this way from 840 moving forward. If you could also inquire as to why this was done in this way as well. So if you essentially just add it to the list of what it was.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, members? There being no other questions. Ario, I would like to thank you and your team for making an appearance to the Public Accounts Committee. And we trust that you would honor your obligation with respect to the time given for the responses to a number of outstanding queries the PSC would like a response to within the time frame allotted, 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
So we want to say thanks and safe journeys on your way back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and please allow me to say thank you too. Despite being grilled and seared, we were well fed. Thank you.
Yes, we take care of our guests.
Thanks.
And the grilling is attributed to Mr. Datadin today. Members, let us break for 10 minutes. I know some of you probably want to use the washroom, and we'll ask the staff to fumigate the room before we take the other agency. Thank you.